We have to stop Ronan.
How?
I have a plan.
You've got a plan.
Yes.
First of all, you're copying me from when I said I had a plan.
No, I'm not. People say that all the time. It's not that unique of a thing to say.
Secondly, I don't even believe you have a plan.
I have part of a plan.
What percentage of a plan do you have?
You don't get to ask questions after the nonsense you pulled on Nowhere.
I just saved Quill.
We've already established that you destroying the ship that I'm on is not saving me.
When did we establish?
Like 3 seconds ago!
No, I wasn't listening. I was thinking of something else.
Oh.
She's right. You don't get an opinion. What percentage?
I don't know. 12%.
12%?
That's a fake laugh.
It's real!
Totally fake.
That is the most real, authentic, hysterical laugh of my entire life because that is not a plan.
It's barely a concept.
You're taking their side?
I am Groot.
So what? It's better than 11%. What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Thank you, Groot. Thank you. See? Groot's the only one of you who has a clue.
I was tired of my lady.
Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to GeekFest Rants. My name is Carlos Perone, and joining me today I have Steve and Tony. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello from the back seats.
Hey.
Literally the back seat. We are on our remote truck on location in the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
The truck happens to have the shape of a car, but it is technically a remote unit we're on right now.
Yes.
Today, we finally were able to get together and talk about one of the last, probably the last, summer superhero blockbuster Marvel epic.
It's the biggest movie of the summer.
Seriously.
No kidding, right? We're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Came from left field.
Now, we've been anticipating this one for a while now. Every time we've been getting together and talking about other films, especially superhero ones, we kept saying, and then at the end of the year, we're going to have this, and then at the end of the year, and there was so much speculation as we knew this movie was going to have a different vibe than the typical ones, and it was going to be like, well, you know, is it going to work or isn't it going to work? So guys, first of all, give us a little background, because again, I was never aware of who the heck these Guardians of the Galaxy were until you guys started filling me in on it. So somebody please tell me, what the hell are we talking about here?
I will do that. Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, was a big risk for Marvel because it does not have the name recognition of, well, first of all, the top tier guys, not even the
B tier or the C tier.
The C tier. You know, at least something like Iron Man had, you know, they had animated shows. There was something, you know, to the public at large, you know, knew who these characters were. Guardians, I was really stunned when they announced it 2 years ago.
Why would they pick them?
Well, I mean, they obviously have a plan, and they obviously have a brand and a strategy that works, and they felt like they could, you know, they had established a track record and that they could trot out a sort of obscure group of characters and make it work. And, you know, people doubted them. I have to confess, I thought that maybe it would be mildly successful. I thought that maybe if they were lucky, they were going to crack like 130 to 150 mil. This is like the second iteration of this group. The team has been around since the late 60s, but this version of the team, I mean, it's not like the Avengers where they, you know, kind of changed rosters and, you know, yeah, the Guardians, they pretty much had the same team up until the late 90s, and they were a group of, you know, sort of sci-fi heroes in the future, like the year 3000, I believe. Oh. And this group, I believe, started in 2008 with an established group of characters that I knew who they were, but I have to confess, this is the first Marvel movie where I didn't read the comic ever. I read the original Guardians comic, but not this latest version. I meant to, you know, try to bone up on it before it came out, and I never did. So I really was going into it pretty cold. You know, like everybody else, I was blown away, pleasantly surprised, whatever you want to say. I thought it was just fantastic, and, you know, it kind of saved the summer. I mean, you talk about a really bleak summer for box office. I mean, and, you know, it just goes to show that Marvel knows what they're doing.
Well, they also had a good script, a good everything gelled with the movie.
Well, tell me a little bit about who made the film and some of the stars.
Well, James Gunn, the director.
What's his cred?
He was married to Jenna Fisher, who was Pam on The Office.
That's right.
He is her ex-husband.
But I've seen only one of his other films, which was Slither, with Michael Rooker, who he's very close to. And that was sort of a funny / comedy / horror thing with, I think Nathan Fillion was in it too.
That's right.
And, I really enjoyed it. He also did we'll talk about the Office connection with Rainn Wilson.
Oh, wow.
I didn't see that.
I didn't see
saw
it either.
That was a good movie.
And so those are the only two that I know of. I think he might have directed at least one other studio film. But, I mean, it's another, Marvel throwing the right director at the right material. And Tony's right. It had a great script. But they also sort of went... It's sort of a deft mix of comedy, not too much comedy.
Not too much,
but enough, but more than usual.
I was actually surprised that I knew there was going to be kind of comedy in the film, but I was surprised that they actually also had the moments of drama and the poignancy with
the mother,
Star-Lord's background.
Well, the beginning was almost like up. I'm like, oh my God, this movie's so sad.
Yeah. But then even with when Star-Lord was going to give up his life for Zoe Saldana.
Gamora.
Gamora, yeah. So even those moments, and even Rocket Raccoon had like these really dramatic moments, and Groot and
Drax.
Drax.
Groot pretty much stole the film at the
I know.
Yeah, with the 3-word I am Groot. It was pretty amazing. But each character had their own little moments. They had their moments of comedy. They had their moments of drama. And somehow they brought it all together to make it just a fun, lighter than usual Marvel movie for the summer. And it all just worked.
And talk about an actual Marvel film for the whole family.
Oh, definitely.
In terms of, you have your Captain America 2 that is a darker type of Captain America film. This is definitely the type of film you can bring everybody, And that's what we did. We brought our daughter, which normally tries to stay away from all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But she just fell in love with Groot, and I know every kid now, from now until Christmas, they're all dying from some kind of Groot
Groot doll or
merchandise. They want the dancing Groot somewhere. Now, let me ask you guys a question. As far as the story goes, does this story follow whatever the heck the normal comic book story is?
I can't answer that because I didn't read the comic.
I didn't read it either.
I'm kind of embarrassed to say that. As I said, this is the first time it's happened for me.
Well, why don't you go read it and come back and tell us?
I will. I'm sorry. But I believe... I think it generally follows the origin of the Guardians. I could be wrong. I'll tell you one thing I know for sure. They incorporated one character from the original Guardians of the Galaxy comic, and that was Yondu, played by Michael Rooker. And he looked like Yondu did in the comic, and he had the same... That arrow thing that he shot around was
the guy who adopted Star-Lord?
Yes, his whatever you want to call foster father, whatever. But he was not like this hillbilly, mercenary bounty hunter type guy that he was in the comic. He was this, sort of square-jawed hero type. I mean, so from that I know that they took a little bit of license with the characters. I also know that, Gamora and Nebula, who was played by Karen Gillan from Doctor Who, were both daughters of Thanos, who is the big bad that we know is coming. You saw a lot more of him than you did in Avengers.
Yeah.
And he, from what I'm gathering, is probably going to be the big villain of Avengers 3.
Who's going to be?
That's really planning ahead.
Josh Brolin.
Right.
That is really planning ahead then.
Considering that's what Marvel does.
They planted Thanos at the end of
Avengers
1.
Yep.
Now they bring him into Guardians, and now they're planning ahead for... who knows? Maybe he's going to show up in one of the other movies.
He probably will. And Marvel has already announced Guardians 2, the release date and everything. Another strong rumor is that the Guardians will appear in Avengers 3 because all these actors are signed to 6 and 9 picture deals. So whether they show up in their own movie or they guest star in another movie, Marvel locks them up. The last thing I heard is Marvel, if all goes well for them, they have it all planned through 2028.
That's insane. Oh my God.
They have release dates booked until 2019. They haven't released the titles yet of all of them, but or most of them. But yeah, so they really are. I think that in terms of this phase, they know exactly where they're going. with all the way up to Avengers 3. And, like I said, Thanos, the Infinity Gauntlet, the Infinity Gems, that's all been hinted at since the first Thor.
Yeah. The other thing that was risky about this movie is that the cast was relatively untested.
Yeah.
Zoe Saldana was in Avatar and stuff.
Star Trek.
But making Chris Pratt the star of the movie was
very
kind of a
risky,
stretch.
Right.
And didn't know what he was going to do. And really, I saw somebody saying, oh, well, maybe he's like the new Harrison Ford. But to me, he's more like the new Nathan Fillion in Firefly.
Yes.
It's much more akin to that.
Yes. And they have sort of they might share the Han Solo DNA to a certain extent, but they're much more...
Just a lighter type.
Yeah.
One thing I also noticed that, again, I can't tell you if it's also inspired by the comic book, which in a way it would be super difficult to portray this in the comic book, is the soundtrack of this film. Music is very important for many reasons, which I assume part of it has to do with the writing in terms of, yes, he had this mixtape that his mom gave him, and he still has the other one that he originally had.
Right.
But
and his Walkman.
But they use music in the film, contemporary music and
80s,
60s,
70s,
and they work it into
great
the actual
effect.
story.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
to great effect.
It kind of adds to a little bit to the comedy of it and the slightly lightheartedness.
Well, when they had the
aspect.
trailer with the Ooga Chaga.
You kind of knew that's the direction they were going.
And you got the vibe of the movie from that trailer.
Yes.
And...
even the resolution of the movie was comical in a way.
Yes, definitely. And I knew, too, I vaguely knew that Star-Lord perhaps had some alien DNA in him, and that's why when everything went down, I was like, he's not dead. I mean, for any number of reasons, I knew he wasn't dead. But I was like, he's doing this because he can survive it.
Right.
So...
Now, let's talk a little bit about the whatever Easter eggs we saw or heard that were in the film.
But how about Howard the Duck?
Well, that's the
That was the
biggest
only one, yeah.
I'm starting with the biggest one.
That was
that was
huge.
great. And I knew it was coming because I spoil myself rotten with the internet. And I want to know what the mid-credits scene and the end credits scenes
There
are.
was no mid-credit scene, right?
Right.
Tell us where Howard appears.
He shows up at the very end.
The coda after the credits.
Coda after
Right.
the credits, and he's after the collector's place has been blown to hell. He's another character that I knew, played by Benicio del Toro, who he showed up at the end of Thor.
I was a little actually disappointed that his role wasn't any bigger.
Yeah, I'm
for some
wondering if it
weird
was cut down.
For some weird reason, I thought he was going to be the main baddie in this film, and he wasn't.
Yeah, I had a sense of that too, but no, you're right. He's just kind of moving the story along with the Infinity.
Is there any word that he's going to be in future films?
Again, I would imagine that they sign all these guys to multi-picture deals and that he probably will show up again because he's the guy who's collecting all the gems or trying to collect all the gems.
Well, apparently there's also a lot of, and again, you have to really sift through the internet, and when the DVD comes out, obviously you'll have all that information, but in the collector's room, there's apparently a lot of
there was some
little
stuff.
hidden things all over the place.
I think the only thing I noticed, or what I think I don't know if I noticed it or I read about it first and then I noticed it, was the cocoon of Adam Warlock, which I don't think you guys know what the hell I'm talking about.
I know. I remember Adam Warlock. I don't remember.
Yeah,
a
he
cocoon.
came out of a cocoon, and that I think was there. Right off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of other Easter eggs.
Well, I remember on the internet they posted a deleted scene where the collector was supposed to have Stan Lee hiding or sitting in a cage or something.
They filmed that in England and
with a stand-in,
with a double,
right? And he was
going to be flipping the bird to them,
right? And they were going to superimpose his head. Apparently,
they said no.
That might have been a little too outside.
Form of the
story.
And they said it was also going to be a little repetitive. I think because of the Howard the Duck gag,
right, which I thought was great. I mean, I love that they did that. And Seth Green did the voice for Howard the Duck, and I think that they only did that just for the hell of it. I think they'd have no plans to do anything with Howard the Duck, but they just wanted to place him there, because he's so infamous when it comes to Marvel films. So that was.
Now, did you hear
great.
something about Nathan Fillion having a cameo at the prison?
Supposedly, I didn't see it.
Really?
I think he did have. The original buzz was that Nathan Fillion was going to play Nova, who was one of the Nova Corps, like John C. Reilly and Glenn Close was in charge of. And they did have the Nova Corps members who all wear the same uniform. It's Marvel's version of the Green Lantern Corps, kind of a ripoff of the Green Lantern Corps. And Nova is the Earth hero, Nova. And just like he's a total ripoff of Green Lantern. And there was talk that Fillion was going to play him, and that who knows that someday he might get his own movie, but definitely didn't happen.
Fillion's not old enough to be Star-Lord's father, though.
No.
Unless they age him seriously.
Well, now that if we're going to talk about the actual characters, let's go a little bit one by one. The main characters, what is their story? Let's start with Star-Lord. He's at first he's just a little kid who watches his mom died at a hospital.
Yeah,
and he gets abducted.
Well, basically, his alien father, paid this
Yondu.
other Yondu
But we don't know
aliens
this at
too.
first.
We don't
know
at
this
first.
at first, but
Right.
to bring him to him. But I guess they wind up keeping him and training him to be a thief,
Like a
pirate,
mercenary.
smuggler,
Right.
whatever.
Now, again, I think that the general gist of his origin is from the comics, but he's a much, much different character. Or he was created in the 70s, much more serious character. And I think that the writer of the last version of Guardians kind of switched him up a bit, rebooted him a little to make him into the character that Chris Pratt plays. But he's been around since the 70s. All these characters have been around since the 60s and the 70s. Groot, I know I'm skipping, but Groot has been around since the 50s.
Really?
Groot was one of Marvel's sci-fi monster characters before they even had superheroes.
Wow.
And then at some point, he showed up, here and there over the course of like 40, 50 years. But again, I believe the writer's name is Dan Abnett. He kind of repurposed Groot and included him in Guardians, but that's his thing. He was only able to say
You
the
are a
three words.
font of knowledge, Steve.
Let's talk a
try
little
to
bit
be.
about Groot. Obviously, this is a completely CGI character,
Right.
and tell us who plays him, who famously
Vin
plays
Diesel,
him. Right.
one of my heroes.
Probably one of his easiest gigs he's ever
Oh,
had.
God. You can imagine the Krillions that he was given to just say, I am Groot, how many different ways. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't even, they didn't even do green screen. He didn't even do, body reference or anything.
No.
And neither did Bradley Cooper, for that matter.
Well, speaking of Bradley Cooper, let's explain the relationship between Groot and Rocket, and let explain to us what exactly is Rocket.
He's a raccoon that talks.
But
Genetically
Right,
engineered.
because they showed in the back he had these things, these electronic type of things.
Again, I mean, I can't give you the kind of detail that I could give you with
based
other
on the
characters.
movie.
Yeah, but I mean, he's experimented on and genetically altered and
He's
all that
kind
other
of like
stuff.
a wisecracking attitude.
I remember Rocket Raccoon from an issue of the Hulk back in the 80s. He was created way back when, and yeah, he had his own miniseries, and I was like, really? Even when I was 12, 13 years old, I'm like, seriously? But,
And in this movie, they're a team. They're kind of like bounty hunters.
yeah,
which
kind of
they
Han and
capture.
Chewie, sort of.
Right. Now, what was Zelana's character?
Saldana's character.
character?
She's Gamora, who, again,
And you
is...
said sisters?
Yeah, Nebula is her sister. They're daughters of Thanos.
Okay.
And Gamora is Thanos' daughter, and, she hates his guts and wants him dead. Thanos
Well,
is...
he stole her, right? Because she's not his biological daughter.
I
so.
thought that...
Because the way in the movie it sounded like he
Nebula
killed her parents.
I guess so. I thought that Nebula was the adopted one, but I could be completely wrong. Yeah, I think that's what they said. That he
Because I think that's why she wanted revenge on Thanos,
Yeah.
because he raised her, but I believe he killed her parents.
right. So yeah, and these characters have been around, like I said, since the 60s and 70s. Gamora and
How about the
Drax?
how about him?
Drax, again, pretty radically altered from his original conception. But he was this big green guy who was a human. He was an Earthman who was killed. I believe his family was killed by Thanos. Getting kind of sketchy here. But then he was resurrected as Drax, this big green guy, and his life's mission was to kill Thanos. Which, again,
Which seems to be what they're doing in the movie.
Yeah.
He's always talking about
right.
that.
Well, he doesn't face off against Thanos. He faces off against that other villain.
But
what was his name?
he's looking for him. He knows that he's
Ronan the Accuser.
Ronan. That's who he wanted to
Ronan,
kill.
played by Lee Pace, who's been around since the 60s. He's a Kree.
Now, what's this actor Lee Pace? What's he been on?
The guy from Pushing Daisies?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Same guy. He was also in The Hobbit.
Oh.
Isn't he in that new show, something about an AMC about computer history?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so if Howard the Duck was one of the little tags at the end, what was the other tag? The Dancing Groot?
The Dancing Groot.
Okay, that was the complete end of it.
Yeah.
Okay, which is kind of weird in a way, because if you think about it, all these Marvel films, or not all of them, but most of them, whatever little end tags they put, they're always referencing something future coming.
Usually, but look at Iron Man 3.
Yeah, they really didn't go too crazy with it, so I guess they decided not to.
Cap 2 definitely, that was foreshadowing Avengers.
Oh, that was huge.
And the next Cap movie. But, yeah, that one, they didn't seem to...
it was just kind of a, hey, let's make something funny.
Yeah.
I guess. So, where are we going with this? Because you mentioned all these other films lined up, and right now the only thing that I can think of right now is not only the Avengers sequel, but the Ant-Man.
Ant-Man is coming. Ant-Man is being shot as we speak.
That's big screen? That's a feature film
yeah,
as opposed to one of the Netflix.
Yeah.
No, that's a we can talk about that.
And
in a second,
now,
but,
last time I remember we talked about Ant-Man, they had just gotten rid of their director.
Yeah, Edgar Wright resigned.
Right, and where are we now?
Peyton Reed is the director.
And what do we know about him?
He was actually originally slated to direct the Fantastic Four.
Oh, my God.
But he fell out of that. And he hasn't really done much. His resume isn't all that impressive, and if you ask me. But, he was... I guess, last minute kind of a thing. And supposedly, since they had already worked with him preliminarily, for other Marvel films, that they said, okay, we'll fit him in. So they're shooting it right now as we speak with Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas. Now, this is interesting. Michael Douglas, kind of like with X-Men First Class, Michael Douglas is playing Hank Pym. In the 60s, as Ant-Man in the 60s, they're staging his part as if, like when the character was created.
Okay.
So his heroics will have happened, and he's long since retired. Paul Rudd plays the Scott Lang version of the character, who came around much later in the late 70s, who was a thief and sort of a ne'er-do-well who stole Pym's technology and became Ant-Man, and then eventually became a hero. And a good guy. And also, they have Corey Stoll from House of Cards and all these other things.
The Strain?
Yes. He's playing Yellow Jacket. Now, Yellow Jacket was somebody else. Pym was just another identity of Pym's. He was Ant-Man, he was Giant Man, he was Yellow Jacket, he was this, he was that. But Corey Stoll is playing him as a villain. Okay. So Yellow Jacket is a completely separate character from Pym. And Evangeline Lilly from Lost.
Really? She's in it?
Right.
She's in it.
Right.
And she's,
now I want to see it.
She's playing Janet Van Dyne, who was...
the Wasp.
The Wasp.
I mean, I have to say, my reaction to the Ant-Man movie is a little, I guess, like when I heard Guardians.
Right.
Like, why? What's the point?
But again, at least for me, I'm more excited than I was at the announcement of Guardians for this because, this is a character I've been reading about since I was a kid. I mean, he might not be a favorite, but I'm sure... Even with the whole director debacle, it's probably going to be pretty good.
But getting back to Tony's point, why these films? When Disney owns the Marvel library, there's no such thing as, this is a little too, we can't afford the top tier people, but we can afford the lower tier. That doesn't seem to be a problem, right? It's their material, no matter what.
Don't forget, Marvel doesn't have the rights to X-Men, Spider-Man, or Fantastic Four. They started out... Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Avengers, even the Hulk.
You think they've exhausted their top-tier people?
In a sense. And they know that they have this wealth of material that they can use. And now that they've seen what they can do with Guardians, you're going to see characters we know, even though the date hasn't been in, they haven't matched the character with the date yet.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange is coming.
Oh, yeah.
Doctor Strange, I know him very well. He's a buddy of mine.
Joaquin Phoenix, or is that...
Oh, they're talking about... I think it was Joaquin Phoenix.
Well, in negotiations, apparently.
Yeah, but they already named a director, and I don't know who he is, but he's been confirmed.
Again, a lot of it hinges on the script, how the director and the writer.
They're going to do, most likely, the next slate will include Black Panther, the Inhumans.
Well, wait, hold on a second. Now, let me ask you something. I know that there has been this coming soon artwork that includes those names, and it's a fan-made thing.
Yeah, it's fan-made,
But do you honestly think it could be those?
I'm positive that they're going to be in the next phase. You can quote me on that.
Okay. Now,
Quoting on
let me
everything.
ask you another question pertaining to Ant-Man again. any idea of what the tone is? In other words, is Guardians the testing ground for a different tone?
Don't think just because Paul Rudd is playing the character that this is going to be a joke fest.
Okay.
I think that this is probably going to be a lot more serious than Guardians.
Okay.
This is probably like, Michael Keaton playing Batman.
Ooh.
And I'm really looking forward to it.
And now, what do we know about Avengers?
Well, they just wrapped up shooting, and that's going to be ginormous. Ultron is the villain who Joss Whedon has wanted to use. I think he wanted to use him in the first one, but he couldn't.
Now, is this Spader?
Yes, James Spader.
Okay.
Who's doing like the motion capture and the voice.
And who's Bentley playing?
He's playing the Vision.
Oh, okay. That's
So
the guy,
now-
that's the green guy
with
with
the red face.
With the red...
You're going to get in Avengers Age of Ultron, you're going to get the sort of lower tier members of the Avengers. They're going to see, this is, again, Marvel, everybody's talking about losing Robert Downey and Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth. It's already in Avengers history that these characters left the team. And Cap just created a new version with Quicksilver, the Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and these other characters, the Vision. So they're introducing all these characters in the next Avengers. You're going to have, you saw them at the end of Captain America. You saw Quicksilver, the Scarlet Witch at the end tag, the coda.
Is it Wheaton again?
Whedon is directing, yes.
Okay.
And it's going to be, incredible, I think. You're going to have the core team that you had in the original film plus the newer characters. So, you could conceivably, not for Avengers 3 because you still have Downey and Evans and all those under contract. But after that, if they want to go forward, they've already laid the seeds that they could have these younger, cheaper actors and call it an Avengers movie, and it'll be just fine, and everybody will accept it.
Tell me again a little bit about the ones we are speculating. What the hell are the Inhumans? Black Panther, I believe, is a black superhero?
Yeah, he's
nothing to do with the political group, I assume.
No, he's the king of the fictional African nation of Wakanda.
Oh, I knew
He's
that.
been around since the 60s.
Oh, I knew that.
He is Marvel's first black superhero.
Even before Falcon?
Before the Falcon.
Ooh.
Well, Falcon is the first African-American superhero. Black Panther is the first black African superhero from the 60s.
Okay.
And he's a king of his own nation, and he doesn't have superpowers per se, but he's very agile and stealthy and
like a Batman
sort of, kind of.
Okay.
And he's, again, he's had his own comic on and off for 40, 50 years almost. And he's a very popular character, and I have no doubt that he's going to be the next, or one of the next.
And what are the Inhumans?
The Inhumans are...
They live on the moon, right?
They lived on the moon. They lived in the Himalayas, I think.
What?
They've been around since the 60s, too.
Okay.
They're sort of like mutants.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
They were... I believe they're the descendants of the Kree race. I could be wrong here, but that's the Ronan from Guardians. He's a Kree, the blue-skinned aliens, and
Well, the Inhumans was Black Bolt, Medusa,
Karnak, Triton. They all,
in a way, they almost are like Greek gods or something.
Yeah,
Maybe
sort
they're
of. Again, had their own titles on and off.
We're with the Fantastic Four quite a bit.
Yes,
Wow.
but Marvel has the rights to them. Fox doesn't have the rights to them.
And I know, obviously, Doctor Strange is not as unusual a name as the other ones, but give us a little background. Is he, a magician?
He's a wizard.
A wizard, okay.
He was a surgeon who was in a car accident. He lost the use of his hands. He couldn't practice surgery anymore. So he went on this, trip to the Himalayas to find himself and to find this, the Ancient One, who was the number one wizard on Earth. And he taught him all his tricks, and he became Marvel's first, magic-based superhero.
Master of the Mystic Arts.
Master of the Mystic Arts.
Wow.
Tony also alluded to the slate of Netflix series that Marvel is producing, and they've already started shooting Daredevil.
Oh, the Daredevil one, okay.
Daredevil, they got the rights back, so they're doing Daredevil, they're doing Power Man and Iron Fist, they're doing Jessica Jones, and then they're going to lead into the Defenders.
Oh, my goodness.
Much like the Marvel movies led into the Avengers.
Wow.
So Daredevil is the one that's filming now, and they're going to do the Netflix thing, just drop 13 episodes at once.
Well,
That's 2015, I assume.
All right. Well, those we're going to have to hit as they come because there's just so much information coming. Like you said, they have the slate, they have the plans. They just haven't told us exactly which ones they're hitting
it's coming
first.
soon.
Wow.
Kind of like the Cylons destroying the planet in Battlestar Galactica. They have a plan. We just don't know what it is.
We just don't know what it is.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess at this point, what's happening next, I guess, is going to be the DVD release of
Guardians,
which I'm sure is going to be completely loaded with stuff. And every little boy and girl around Christmas time, they're going to have their own dancing Groot in a pot. Because that's what everybody seems to be looking for like crazy. To the extent I heard that people are buying on eBay the old dancing flower junkie made in China things, right, and adapting them, customizing them to make them a dancing Groot, because that's like going to be the hottest toy, I believe, this Christmas. But like I said, in the meantime, let's wait for the DVD, which hopefully, I mean, the movie came out in...
It'll drop before
Christmas. You think by Christmas we'll get it?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Marvel would be smart to do that.
Yeah, no kidding. You can't miss that Christmas rush. Anyway, I want to thank Steve and Tony. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. In your car. In the Bronx.
Please, it's called the mobile unit. We're in the mobile unit.
Sorry.
Good.
I just need this to end because it's so hot in here.
And it's cramped.
Yeah.
And the windows are all steamy and foggy, and the cops are gonna come and think something's going on in here.
And the neighbors.
I know. And we'll see you guys next time here at GeekFest Rants. Bye-bye, everybody.
What kind of feeling? I'm high on believing.
If we're gonna get out of here, we're gonna need to get into that watchtower. And to do that, I'm gonna need a few things. The guards wear security bands to control their ins and outs. I need one.
Leave it to me.
That dude there, I need his prosthetic leg.
His leg?
Yeah. God knows I don't need the rest of him. Look at him, he's useless.
All right.
And finally, on the wall back there is a black panel. Blinky yellow light. You see it?
Yeah?
There's a Quarnix battery behind it. Purplish box, green wires. To get into that watchtower, I definitely need it.
How are we supposed to do that?
Well, supposedly these bald bodies find you attractive, so maybe you can work out some sort of trade.
You must be joking.
No, I really heard they find you attractive.
Look, it's 20 feet up in the air, and it's in the middle of the most heavily guarded part of the prison. It's impossible to get up there without being seen.
I got one plan, and that plan requires a frickin' Quarnix battery, so figure it out! Can I get back to it? Thanks. Now, this is important. Once the battery is removed, everything is going to slam into emergency mode. Once we have it, we got to move quickly. So you definitely need to get that last. Or we can just get it first and improvise.
I'll get the armband.
Leg.
We're going to get arrested, man.
I just need this to end because it's so hot in here.
This looks weird.